We looked at the background and core gameplay elements of A Billion Suns in part 1, and, based on those things alone, we heartily recommended this new space combat game from Osprey. Now, into part 2 of our video, we get to look at some of the more advanced rules in further detail. To start things off, we're picking up at page 28 of this 64-page softback book. That's where the use of each player's helm is covered in detail, and that's something we touched on in the first video, so if you've not watched that one yet, you should probably go do so. All caught up? Okay then. The helm is the place where CEOs, and that's you, the players, put command tokens onto different sections to use in the game's phases. The initiative and jumping in command tokens provide an edge in those areas, but it's with the tactical command tokens that the in-game ship-specific movement and combat adventures can be modified. This is done through diverting power to specific areas. If you put your power to the engines, then the move distance is doubled. Power to inertial dampeners will allow a battle group to fire its primary weapons even if it performed a high G manoeuvre. Power to weapon systems will add a minus to your to hit rolls, and that's good in this game, lows are what you want. And here you can spend multiple command tokens, up to your battle group's mass value, so you can potentially make the to hit roll an almost foregone conclusion by lowering it multiple times. Power to shields is the same kind of mechanic, but each token that you use will boost the shields by 1. Additionally, you can choose to just apply an override. This allows you to re-roll any single dice. What all of this means is that before the turn even starts, you can begin to formulate a plan as to where you might spend your command tokens. But, as things change in the heat of the battle, that plan can be modified. Should one of your battle groups come under unexpectedly fierce fire, you might want to divert power to their shields and keep them alive, even though that will foil your plans that you had for a double move and a fierce volley of fire from your cruiser. Really cool stuff. Next come additional rules for the jump phase. These are where the game's multiple battlefields and jump points make for fascinating tactical considerations as vessels hop between them. Jump shock happens when a ship with a higher mass value jumps within range of others. The smaller ships suffer a number of 1 damage attacks equal to the larger ship's mass. Now that's probably not too much concern for another large vessel, but if it's a low mass squadron that's getting hit, there's the risk of it being completely destroyed by the disturbances in space. And jump shock can affect friendly as well as enemy vessels. There's also jump hopping, which allows battle groups to move from one jump point to another, and this could be between points on the same battlefield or to move on to another one entirely, creating an ever-evolving web of jumps and combat in various places. There are interesting additional rules in the tactical phase too. Go Rogue allows the controlling CEO to do damage to one of their battle groups, but they also count that damage as a command token too, so they can give extra orders and abilities. Ships that get destroyed create an explosion that causes damage in the same way as jump shock. The more that your ships take damage, the more chance there is that their weapons will malfunction, which will cause further damage equal to the strength of the weapon itself. But you can protect smaller ships by putting them beside a larger one. That's a rule called Mother's Wing. None of these things greatly add to the complexity of in-game requirements, or record keeping, or referencing, but what they do is provide a ton of depth to your games and bring in just the right amount of random disaster potential too. There's a full example of the advanced attack rules on page 34, a sort of in-game situation that brings all the concepts together really nicely. And next, it's onto utility ships. These are non-combat vessels that aid you in various ways, with carriers acting as jump points from which zero-mass battle groups can scramble, or mining vessels that can disembark from them. And those mining vessels can use their lasers on stationary objects, usually to fulfill a contract. One thing yet to be covered is the vastness of space itself, and that's where page 35 onwards has got you covered. Now, as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy says, space is big, really big. But, for the sake of fun games, A Billion Suns kind of compacts that bigness and makes the areas that you're fighting in have a little more features than you might find as usual. Any non-standard feature of space is referred to as dangerous space, be it clouds of debris, carcasses of destroyed spaceships, the gravity wells of dwarf stars, and so on. Any ships that move through, or end their turn in dangerous space, risk taking damage at the end of the movement. Jump points that are in dangerous space will also get destroyed. And I know you might now be thinking, well, only a fool would put a jump point in dangerous space, right? And that's true. But what happens when a huge ship explodes next to a jump point and turns that area into dangerous space? Yeah, yet more very simple rules that have a really cool in-game effect. There are also specific objects covered with specific rules. Asteroids have a mass and a silhouette, which means that they can be destroyed, and it's the same with facilities. There are other types of object too, and these get a good bit of coverage as well, moving on from page 38. And these largely feature in the game's contracts, which are the missions. So let's move onwards to those. There's a core systems contract set, which is basic ones designed to fit the common activities and conflicts that a CEO would face, listed in the book. But there are also more online, covering things like all-out war or far space exploration. Well, that's nice and generous. The contracts are managed through a deck of playing cards, and each active contract gets its own deck and special rules. The Infowar contract, for example, requires players to use a spades deck. That's one that's placed face up and runs in ascending order. And they should also add an additional table to play across. Then, comm stats are put into play, which can be hacked to generate revenue. On the other hand, a supply contract will need you to build a hearts deck. That's placed face up too, but it runs in descending order. There's no extra table for this one. Instead, a planetoid is placed, and this adds a new goal into the game, with utility ships needing to access it to provide supplies and gain revenue. With 12 possible contracts, combined in different ways, your games will always be fresh, and the rules for them run from pages 44 to 52. The last part of the book gets into the rules for connected games, designing your corporation and campaigns. There are no specific factions defined in the book, but it does provide competitive advantages. Now these are to help players make their own corporations and unlock the right kind of feel as things go on. The competitive advantages potentially improve across multiple games through tech trees, which are incremental upgrades that you can boost through research, which is, in turn, boosted up through the amount of capital you've accumulated in previous games. There are 6 competitive advantages covered: aggression, discipline, endurance, helmsmanship, logistics, and military, and there's a ton of flexibility here. Getting unlocks at different levels will potentially unlock advantages in other areas too, and this will define your battle groups on the table, as well as giving players who love lots of rich background the inspiration for more flavour elements. Campaigns are built around reputation, scale, and capital. Ship classes must be unlocked with capital, as must the research for your competitive advantages. Gaining reputation keeps a scoreboard of sorts between CEOs as the battles happen, and scale is simply the size of the conflicts you're fighting. And you know what? That's it. The book ends with designer's notes from Mike Hutchinson, credits, and some reference material. So, A Billion Suns is an absolutely packed 64 pages of exciting new rules. It offers a genuinely exciting space fighting game with impressive depth in a compact and elegant rule set. And we have to say, what are you waiting for? Get out there, or get online if you're locked down. Order up some new spaceship minis and state your claim in the vastness of the galaxy.
This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated Magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.